what's going on guys? Arekkz here, and today I want to talk about the PS5, one of the next generation systems launching this year. Incredibly exciting. If you guys caught the live stream, the Future of Gaming stream the other day, then you will have already seen the brand new console design, as well as a whole host of games, many of which I am also super excited for. But today I wanted to talk about the console specifically because there's a lot of information out there. Some of it we know to be confirmed, some of it is rumors, but for those of you guys that wanted a kind of comprehensive look at the system, what it looks like, the specs behind it, potential release date, potential price, that kind of stuff, then we decided to put together the ultimate guide, the PS5, if you will, going over all the stuff that you want to know about and need to know about. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think about the console. I know this kind of pretty divisive design. I know some people absolutely love it. I'll be honest, I kind of like it just because it looks sort of like a space futuristic console, but I know a lot of people also don't like it, so let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you guys are excited for PS5 or just any of the future games, then make sure you stick around, make sure you turn on notifications, because we're going to be covering all of that stuff over on the channel throughout this year. Now, let's start at the top with the console itself. Of course, again, as mentioned, they revealed the look of it, and they also revealed that there are two different versions of this console. You have the regular version and the digital edition. This is of course a thing that we are gradually kind of moving in the direction of. A lot of people are kind of open to the idea of digital consoles. However, I don't think we're still in a position just yet to the point where a console will come out as an only digital option. Still, a lot of people prefer to have physical discs. Some people are limited by their internet connections. So I still feel like we're quite a few years away from, a complete digital shift, if ever. But anyway, the point is, there are two different versions. The main difference between these, of course, is that the regular edition has a Blu-ray disc drive, meanwhile the other one does not. Now, this does of course mean that the digital version does have a nicer symmetrical design, so from a kind of aesthetic point of view, it does look more sleek, but do of course keep in mind that without an optical drive, it also means that, you have to download your games, you can't play physical, and you also couldn't use it as a media system to play, Blu-rays and DVDs and movies and things like that. So if you did decide to use, or if you are one of those people that uses your console as kind of a media entertainment system, not just for your games, then you do of course want to consider that. Also, I'm kind of one of those people myself that while I do largely speaking download most of my games, I do still kind of like to buy physical editions just for my shelf, especially when it comes to collector's editions. So I do still think that I will be going towards the physical version despite the asymmetrical nature. Anyway, with that being said, what about the size of the console? Because of course it's one thing to see pictures of it, but when you don't see it side by side with anything else, it's kind of hard to understand just how big it will be. And it's looking like this thing is going to be pretty big. Now keep in mind, again, PlayStation themselves haven't given us any specific dimensions or measurements, but shout out to Reddit user Grebo7 or Greb07, however you pronounce it. He went and kind of put together a size chart using USB slots and optical disc drives as a standard. Keep in mind, when you look at renders for things, USB slots and optical disc drives are industry standard sizes, so you can kind of use that in the same way that you would use like a key on a map as a kind of point of reference for distance. You can basically use USB ports and optical drives as a reference for height. So when you look at all the consoles compared side by side, you can actually see that the PS5 is basically the biggest console we've ever had. It is very tall. Yes, of course, if you put it side by side with the Xbox Series X, it's not as wide, but it is a very tall system. So if you're thinking about where it could possibly go in your media system or kind of your media setup, then keep in mind, while it might not be hugely wide, it is definitely quite tall. It's also worth noting that despite the weird sort of angular shape of it, it can still be laid on its side. There have been some pictures shared of what it looks like on its side. I'll be honest, it looks kind of weird, looks like it fell over, doesn't actually look like it's supposed to be laid on its side, but it is possible. Now moving on from there to talk about the storage, the SSD. It was actually confirmed by Digital Foundry's expert Richard Ledbetter in his analysis that the storage for the PS5 is set to be a custom 825GB SSD with an NVMe SSD slot for expansion. Although do keep in mind, these NVMe drives will need Sony validation. This upgraded memory storage is of course a massive jump in terms of speed from the hard drive in the PS4 and the size with the regular PS4 of course only having 500GB of storage. Obviously I know some of you may have done that swap where you put an SSD in your PlayStation and you of course notice the difference, but when it comes to working out what this actually means, I'm not going to go into the kind of hyper specific granular technical stuff, but what we actually care about as gamers when it comes to, what does this new NVMe SSD mean for us? Well, again, to quote Richard Ledbetter from his Digital Foundry analysis, Sony's actual implementation is something else. With performance rated at 2 orders of magnitude faster than the PS4, 2GB of data can now be loaded in 1/4 of a second. So again, what does this mean for us gamers? Because that's That's still kind of rocket science, let's be honest. Well, what it basically means is load screens will be faster, so fast in fact that they may even be instant and seamless, so you can say goodbye to your toilet breaks when you're waiting for your console to load. And you actually get a glimpse of this in the new Ratchet & Clank gameplay they showed during the reveal stream, where you're being thrown between different portals and rifts into completely different levels and planets, all seamlessly, without any loading screens or fast transitions. Like when you watch that visual effect, not only does it just look astounding, but what you need to realize is that every time they go through the portal, that is loading a completely different world, a completely different instance, incredibly quickly. This means it can then open up new types of gameplay features that can take advantage of extremely fast loading times, such as the teleporting that I just mentioned. In addition, it could also mean that some games won't need to be designed with loading textures, assets, maps in mind. This could also mean that there are no longer kind of long stretches of walking in between levels, because often that's like a masking technique used in game design to basically hide a loading screen. Instead of, just sitting on a screen, they'll have you walk for extended periods of time while they're secretly loading things in the background. This could eliminate that too, and I sincerely hope so. Let me tell you, one of my pet peeves in gaming are long extended walking scenes. I don't care how much you're trying to set the mood. I don't like it. Stop it. But anyway, that aside, basically what it translates to, putting all the technical jargon to one side, is because it loads a lot faster, it means that we can be into our games a lot faster, it means that maps can potentially be much more expansive, there can be a lot more going on, and we can just get into the action that much quicker. So it's a good thing. Switching focus for a moment to speak a little bit about the controller, because of course the controller is also a new thing, and I also really like this. I love the design for it. I know everybody's got their favourite controller and whatnot. I've personally never been a huge fan of the kind of regular DualShock PS4 controller. Not sure if that's just because I've got bigger hands, but I never find it hugely comfortable. But this one looks kind of like a halfway house between like the Xbox controller and the PlayStation controller. It looks slightly more ergonomic in design, and I just really like that. I do still prefer staggered analog sticks, but either way, I can deal with it. But anyway, this new controller is called the DualSense, the PS5 DualSense, and in this you have adaptive triggers in the L2 and the R2 buttons, which basically offers different or differing levels of resistance whilst gaming. Examples of this can include things like you can actually feel the tension of a bowstring when you're pulling it and firing an arrow. You can also then kind of have a sort of differentiating feel between firing a machine gun or a shotgun. And in addition, the angle of the triggers has also slightly been changed, which again is something I'm super happy of. The kind of previous angle on PS4 controllers I've never liked too much. This one definitely looks a lot more comfortable. There's also a built-in microphone in this controller. You will of course still be able to use a headset if you prefer via audio jack. However, there is also a mute button for the kind of inbuilt microphone if you don't want to use it. The create button that replaces the previous share button will offer new ways, to quote the official blog post, for players to create epic gameplay content to share with the world or just enjoy themselves. It'll also have a USB Type-C port, which will be great for recharging the rechargeable battery. I sincerely hope that the battery is actually good this time, because the PlayStation controller, the battery runs out after like 10 seconds. Let's be honest, I'm always charging the damn thing. I sincerely hope they improve that. There's also a textured grip on the back of it, which, rather interestingly, if you look at it super closely, despite the fact that it might look like one of those Artex coatings that you put on ceilings, it's actually circles, X's, squares, and triangles, really, really small in the grip, so that kind of subtle detail is quite nice. The light bar is also now located either side of the touchpad, which again makes so much more sense. It was always kind of ridiculous having it at the back of the controller, because who looks at the back of their controller when they're playing it? I like that a lot, and according to product manager Toshi Aoki, it should actually be lighter than the current Xbox controller with batteries in it, so that could be kind of cool. There's also improved haptic feedback, meaning better effects and rumbling, and there's an internal speaker and the central touchpad. So, that's what we have on the controller. Now, turn our attention back to the console, or just the whole unit combined. What about price? Well, there haven't been any official prices just yet. Sony have not gone on record and given us a price just yet. I imagine they will do over the next couple of months, because of course once they put a price out, they can open up pre-orders, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. However, there have been some rumours going around, and there were also a couple of sites that put up some listings which have since been taken down, which could hint at the potential for this. Keep in mind, this is not going to be a cheap console. Typically, consoles are always sold at a loss anyway, but it is said that this is definitely kind of more expensive to produce, even down to, say, the cooling system. I saw a tweet today saying the cooling system on this is not cheap in this console, so there's a lot of things that will probably hike up the price. If we take a look back, historically, the PS4 originally launched in 2013, had a retail price of $399 or £349. However, we are now 7 years forward, and with, of course, the large increase in specs for the PS5, many people are expecting a higher price for that. One of the early listings for the PS5 showed it coming in at £599, which is around $750, and with a 2TB SSD. So it may well be there are different models. I mean, again, we've seen that before, differing hard drive sizes on different systems. That's hardly surprising. This was actually seen posted on Amazon UK. I will say that does sound a little bit high to kind of be realistic, but again, honestly, who knows? However, since then, there have also been several other listings. A Danish retailer listed a pre-order for 6,989 kroner, which comes in at around £842, which is $1,000, which again sounds astronomical, and that was for the 825GB SSD model. There was also a listing that showed up on PlayAsia, which is one of those kind of websites where you can often like import things from Japan and whatnot. That listing originally priced the console at £559, around $700, and a Canadian retailer, Play and Trade in Vancouver, they kicked off pre-orders for the PS5 at 559 Canadian dollars, which is roughly $369 US or £318. So you can see there's kind of a pretty big mix of prices, but generally speaking, if you take the average and kind of come somewhere between, we're potentially looking at kind of around the sort of $600 to $700 mark, which does sound kind of pricey. I mean, that almost kind of throws it back to, do you guys remember the old PS3 meme when it was kind of the E3 announcement where they combined it and they were like, flip over the crab for massive damage, and they were like $599 US. That was kind of a laugh back then.
It requires huge financial investment, $599 US, but we must take risks to reap the rewards.
And you attack its weak point for massive damage.
The next level.
That could actually be a reality this time. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Like, what is the most you would pay for this? I appreciate it's not going to be cheap, it's not going to be as affordable as before, but what would be your upper limit? Either way, those are the listings we've currently had. Whether they're accurate, I don't know just yet, so until PlayStation officially confirm their prices, take all of it with a massive pinch of salt, but that is what we've had so far. Then moving on from there, what about release date? Because again, while Sony have announced the console, while they have said that it is coming holiday 2020, we don't have an exact release date. However, there was a Sony Interactive Entertainment job listing that supposedly included the release date as October 2020. It said we will select the best suppliers from domestic and overseas parts partners and adjust the specifications of hardware parts and production capacity in cooperation with the design department and quality assurance department to create PlayStation 5 schedule to be released in October 2020. Again, whether that's accurate will remain to be seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of window, it kind of makes sense. They're obviously going to want to get it out just before Christmas, and you know, around the sort of September, October window, that's when a lot of stuff typically drops anyway, right? You have E3 in June, you then have Gamescom in August, and then you kind of get towards that September, October, November window, and then all the games start coming out. So I wouldn't be surprised if October is an accurate window. Now, that is largely speaking everything you need to know about the console. However, just a quick note on a few additional features, things worth noting. When it comes to backwards compatibility, due to the PS5 being based in part on the PS4's architecture, Sony have already announced that the majority of the top 100 most played PS4 games are already working on PS5, and they're looking to expand that, so backwards compatibility is definitely a thing. There's supposedly going to be configurable game installations. If supported by developers, there could be the options to customize how you install your game. For example, take a game like Call of Duty, which normally has an astronomically large multiplayer component alongside the campaign. You could potentially have the opportunity to only install the single player campaign, if that's what you cared about, or only install the multiplayer. Additionally, when it comes to PS5 accessories, there's supposedly a charging station for up to 2 DualSense controllers, a Pulse 3D wireless headset, a media remote, and also an HD camera with dual 1080p lenses. For PS5 PSVR support, the support for the current gen PSVR headset will continue, so you'll be able to take that over to PS5. The new geometry engine, which is a new block that will give developers more control over triangles, primitives, and geometry culling, basically means you can do some crazy visual stuff. That Unreal Engine demonstration they showed a little while ago basically kind of shows us some of that potential power. And also finally, note on the Tempest engine, this basically uses the key tenets of presence and locality to help create more realistic audio. So couple that with the head-related transfer function, HRTF for short, this should basically mean that you get better sound in your games, and the sound should be slightly different depending on the shape of your ear. That's all like hyper technical, but there are a few additional things worth noting. Anyway, that's it for the time being. That is your comprehensive look at everything we have on the PS5 right now, your guide to PS5 if you will. As and when we do find out more about it, as and when we get a kind of confirmed release date or a price, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date. So again, if you don't want to miss that news, make sure you stick around. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget, if you haven't already done so, you can join the Arekkz Gaming Discord. We've got an awesome community over there with so many different channels for you to chat loads of different topics and different games. I'm in there, the team's in there if you guys want to chat with us, find people to play with. It's just in general a great place to be. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads.